Oh, wait on. Better? In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your own hot tub. A bit like this. Well, probably a bit more like this one. This video will show you my complete journey of building my hot tub, along with this deck to put it on, and the steps, the retaining walls, the whole lot. This video will also show you how to build it yourself. I will give instructions throughout the video on how to make each part, how to put it together, what materials you'll need and what tools you'll need. And for more information on those things, have a look down in the description. So I hope you enjoy, and if you're making your own hot tub, good luck. It's a fantastic thing to do. And ever since I built it, it has been a nightly ritual to go and soak in the tub. Enjoy. Yeah, little bitty. The saga began a little something like this. Yellow. Yeah. You gotta buy a spa pool? Okay, cool. How much is it? How much? Why is it so cheap? Inflatable. You want to buy an inflatable spa pool? No, don't get an inflatable one. Because it'll be crap. No, I'll make you one. I will, I'll make you one. Not an inflatable one, no. No, like a wooden hot tub. You know, one of those wooden hot tubby things. I promise. I will. I'll build you one. I will. Okay. See ya. So it's been a year. I've been thinking about it. I've been planning it. And now I just gotta do it. Well, it's the first fine day weather-wise for a while, so I thought I'd get out in the garden and start the next project. That is a hot tub, which will go somewhere here. There will also be a deck boardwalk running out to it, which will carry on somewhere over there. Just planning it out as we speak. Nice breezy day today to get this sorted. So I'm ripping up the pond up the top there. We'll be out shortly. And I'll dig out this area here so the deck can go there, and the pool's gonna go somewhere here. Somewhere. Be a bit of junk to get rid of. Got my post holes marked, ready to be bored. And I'm just sorting out the path here going out to the pool. And I needed to get rid of this old concrete path here. That's my spa pool analog. And I've been smashing up the concrete, but underneath this concrete path is unfortunately another concrete path. My holes are dug, the deck is ready to be built. There's just one more thing I need to take care of first. Whooshka. Here is my pile of timber for the subdeck of the spa pool. The chair and the pallet up the end there are just to try and keep the sun off it a bit so it doesn't dry out too fast, because the timber's still a bit wet. If it dries out too fast, it'll go walkabouts all over the show. I love the versatility of a radial arm saw. I love the bed. The fact that it's made of timber means you can do all sorts of things to it. You can cut into it, you can screw into it, you can nail into it. So if you're making specialized jigs and things, it makes life real easy. I'm checking out the posts for my pool, and this bit of timber up against the blade, and the thickness of the blade is about perfect. So what I'm going to do is just put that board there, whack in a few nails. They just have to be up against this board. I run the saw through, and that will give me my exact straight line and the right distance in, and then I can just flip it over do the other side, bang, whack through all 7 posts that I have to do this with that are this size, and then I will shift this over and then double side it again to get the other cuts all the way through. And the last little bit I will have to check out because of the shape of a circular saw blade. Stuck the reciprocating saw down the middle just to line them up. Cut out the annoying circular saw bit. They still need a little bit of a tidy up, but nearly ready to go. Both sides, of course. So I've got my string line set up from one side to the other here. I'll put that board on the ground there, up along here, and that way I will have permanent level points all the time to work from, and that will give me my level heights that I need in the center when I'm putting my bearers and posts in. Now the way I'm going to put this first bearer in is to attach these posts to the bearer first. I'll just nail them and then tip it up, concrete them into the ground with fastcrete, but this is a high strength one, which I'm glad they've finally invented. So that's 30 MPa, whereas this one's only 15. So you don't have to mix this, you just tip water in the hole, tip the bag of concrete in, done. 30 MPa, fantastic. So what I'll do, nail them on, then I'll suspend this bearer, get it up to the right height, and that will keep the posts slightly off the bottom of the holes, so the concrete will go underneath to prevent rotting at the bottom of the posts and stopping them from sinking, that sort of thing. Right, so that's day 1 done and dusted. Tomorrow I will, well, it won't be tomorrow. It'll be in a few seconds. I will finish off the rest of this sub-deck framing for the path that'll go around there and the deck across there. And then we can start building a tub. Oh, yeah. My apprentice will now demonstrate putting nuts on bolts with the impact driver. With the second day drawing to a close, progress is being made quite well, but now I've got to think about some of the more trickier parts, such as drainage and things before I go any further, so that I can still access it, and putting the power through and the drain from the pool, some pipes and that sort of thing, else I'm gonna end up kajiggering myself, and that doesn't sound comfy at all. That will be the path here, and the path will go out to the pool and then off to the right where the chicken's just coming into shot. Coming into shot, chicken. Yep, all good. It's a bit of a weird looking shape. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you, my old faithful now has a big brother. Oh yeah, 36 volt baby. using a cordless one. Got the safety gear on again today. And when it comes to these two saws, the 18 volt seems to be a lot easier to handle just for quick cross cuts, and for doing these vertical cuts like that, stuff that's already in situ, it's much easier and lighter to handle. And because I'm used to seeing the blade on that design, the left hand blade, it just makes it easier to follow the line. Whereas the big one here is much easier for ripping, just much more powerful. Like a knife through butter. The chickens are enjoying their new gymnasium. Did you knock my level off? Ah, damn. I always like to treat any cut treated wood to some treatment. Better to be safe than sorry. Almost ready for the next stage. Got a couple of little issues though. Just need to work out what I wanted to do was have this boardwalk come up and then sweep around here and then down to the aviary down there. But it's going to be hard getting that curve with the timber, especially when I've got to carry on the deck over and around behind the pool here. So I might have to put a division board through there, which I didn't really want to do, but it's going to be a bit tricky without doing that. I think just getting this, when I do this curve, it's going to open up too big a gap to get the boards in, if you know what I mean. So that's a bit of a bummer. Anyway, that's the end of another day. Pack up the tools. Had the fan going out here today. She's pretty warm. She's pretty humid. And even 125s. 5-inch. Doesn't miss a beat. My pool analog is looking a little worse for wear. Still got a little bit of retaining wall to build across here. And I think I can take down my level guide here now. Everything is honky-dory. Almost ready for the next stage. Lock and load. Beast! Absolute beast. Now that change in speed is not me changing the trigger, it's the setting that it's on. It starts off slow and then when she gets the torque she ramps up. Now that the substructure is pretty much sorted, we've got one of the less exciting or less fun jobs putting in the electrics. Less exciting because I've got to rip up some of this deck to get these conduits in and get it over to that box there, which used to have our old spa pump in. We used to have a spa where this Avery now stands many moons ago. So I won't show you all the procedure of that because different places have different rules and different products and different ways of doing electrical stuff. I have some bare wood and I want it painted black. It's painted black mostly so that the gaps between the decking boards don't show up too much. Don't want the timber showing through. This way it looks more like it's floating. Pedantic, I know. We've started oiling some boards for the deck, looking good, although the colour out here might look a little bit odd. Looks alright through the screen of the camera, but everything's a bit orange today due to the bushfires in Australia. Now in the past I've used the camo system when I wanted to do invisible fasteners, but for some reason I decided to make my life difficult on this project. Instant deck. Woohoo! It worked. Just preparing some more boards that I'm oiling top and bottom. Why do I do this to myself? The first part of the hot tub we're going to concentrate on is the base. Now the base will be made out of 140mm wide by 32mm thick timber. In this case I'm using Vitex, but in your part of the world you might want to use something different. It needs to be tongue and grooved. So this is a test piece. Always make sure you do some test runs first on a scrap piece of wood to get your measurements right and your depths and everything, as I'll show you as we do the cuts right about now. I am starting with the tongue. Remember that the router bit you need is the inverse of the shape you're going to get. So you want to set this so that your tongue is smack bang in the middle of your piece of wood ideally. That will give you the option of using both sides of the wood. If you're too far one side or the other, you'll be stuck with only using one side and you may end up with a bad side of the piece of wood. So try and get it dead in the center, and then we'll set the other router off a cut board, as you'll see shortly. I'm going to do the cut in 3 passes. That way it's less pressure on the router and less likely to damage your wood when it's trying to take out large chunks, less likely to split and chip. I have been cutting with this area here covered, stop too much dust flying in my face, but I'll leave it open here just so you can see how it works. So the tongues are complete. It's now time for the grooves, baby. This is one of the main reasons I purchased the Triton router, because you can just wind it up like that, pull that out, undo this, which will lock automatically. Also with this Triton router, it has captive collets, so you can't lose anything. Very good. Very handy. And it's automatically locked in place. So with this we'll just have to try and line the tongue up with the blade. Like so. I will of course do a few test passes and make sure everything's in the right place. I will do probably 3 passes on each piece of wood to get to the proper depth. For the final pass with the grooving bit, we need to add a packer on the second fence. That's because we are taking off the rounded edge here. So if you take a look, it's a different width now. So we've got this gap here, which unfortunately is in the sun. So that gap has to be taken up on the other side. So when it gets to that point there, it is now touching that piece of duct tape over a thin slither of timber, and that will keep everything straight. Otherwise it will start going on an angle and you'll end up with a slightly different depth of groove on one end of the board to the other. Now that I have my tongue and groove boards done, I need to put some bearers underneath to take the weight of all this water. So on my analog here I have laid out boards, and I will need 4 by the looks. So they'll be 350 to 400 apart, depending on how far I bring in the 2 edge ones. And the base boards will run at a 90 degree to these bearers, as indicated with this test board here. Underneath the bearers I'm also going to put a strip of 115 by 19 mil. That timber will be attached to the bearers before I attach it to the base of the pull. So I'll screw it from the other side into the tops of the bearers. That gives me a nice easy surface to just screw to all the bottom of the base. So these bearer boards are 65 by 45 Vitex. You could use treated timber if you want it to be structural and to last. So this is the same timber I'm making the base out of, so it should be pretty good. And the total height with the bearer and this other board I'm attaching is around 85 millimeters. And we just have to remember that number for when we're making our staves, to make sure that we put the groove for the base the right distance up to account for this. I have roughly cut to length the boards I need. So I've done a couple at 1200 and a couple at 1700, and same with the 115 wide boards. I'm doing them over, you'll see why shortly. Now we're going to pre-drill some holes with a 4mm countersunk bit, and I'm putting in stainless steel 65mm 12 gauge screws. Don't have to use that sort of screw, but I would recommend stainless screws. And the 65mm will get us through the baseboard and all the way to about that far short of the end. But don't start putting your screws in too close to the end of the board, because we will be chopping this off. So come back a bit and away you go. Make sure your heads are below surface level, or at least flush, because this will be against the base of your pull. I'm going to do them at about 200 centers. Just repeat along the 4 boards. It's now time to lay out our base. Remember when you do this to put the good side of your boards facing down, so that when you flip it over, that'll be the bottom on the inside of your tub. Next you'll want to lay all your boards out. Make sure you've got enough, make sure they're in the right order. These ones aren't quite yet, I need to put some of these longer ones in the middle. And I'll check it with my template here. You can check it with a tape measure, you don't need a template like that. Just make sure it's all going to fit once these are all hammered together. When you hammer them together, get yourself a piece of scrap like this with the profiles cut in it, so that you can then hammer them all in. When you want to hammer the boards together, you'll slip that in, hammer, 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 hammer. That way you're not hitting any of the edges and damaging the edges of your boards. Grabbed a flat bit of wood here. I've drilled 2 holes 810 millimeters apart because my distance from here to here is 1620. So I've halved that. Your distance might be slightly different depending on the widths of the timber. Might end up a little bit less than that, a little bit more than that. So now I need to find the center to mark everything. So I'll do that just by roughly holding that in the middle and spinning around, making sure that it is gonna stay on all these boards. Chuck a nail in the middle, I'll draw a circle, and then we'll put our bearers across. So I've clamped it in the middle there to pull it tight, but not too tight. I haven't done it up really hard. I'll put the 2 center bearers on, and then I'll pull in these sides and put the side bearers on. So I've lined these 2 outside ones with the boards so that they completely cover 7 boards. And then we have from the inside to the inside a 370mm gap, 365mm gap in the middle there, and 375 again on the other side. I'm going to attach them now with some stainless steel screws. This is 32mm, this is 19mm, that adds up to 51. I'm going to use 40mm screws, stainless steel. They can be countersunk, pan head, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be touching anything, it's not going to be seen, but I'm going to use countersunk. I'll put 2 in each board on one side and 1 in the middle on the other side. So I don't have to flip this over again. I'm now going to mark where I need to cut these boards. I will then cut them, oil them and attach them. That way it gives them a bit of protection. Hopefully they'll last a little bit longer. Oil can soak in, preserve the wood. And I'll probably oil the bottom as well, and then we'll flip it and cut it. So what we want to do here is mark it, which I've done here, and we'll flip it over with our marks there like that. Draw a line between our marks, then we'll measure back 30mm because this part of this is going to be covered by the staves. They'll be covered by about, say, 15mm, and then so 30mm will give us just a little bit of room so that we don't end up jamming anything up, getting anything too close. Time to flip it over. Before I flipped it, I've just sanded off any of the sort of rough bits by the joins where they're not quite lined up, just so it makes it a bit easier to hammer on our staves when we get to that point, because we want a nice tight fit. Ideally this is the point where you get out your belt sander and you go over with a belt sander to get rid of the little edges on the tongue and groove, but I haven't got a belt sander at the moment, so I'm going to do it with one of these and just try and be careful. Before I flip this over, I drilled a 1.5mm diameter hole through from the other side in the centre, so I didn't have to try and work it out from this side. We'll just plug up the hole later. So she's sanded now. I haven't gotten it super smooth because it's sort of not a lot of points going to swell up and change shape. Don't worry about tiny little gaps there, grooves, because it's all going to swell up, remember. So don't worry about water leaking out or anything. Should all swell up in time. Right, time for another fun bit. We're going to finally cut this circle out with a router. Now I'm not going to use the big router that I use for doing the edges of these boards. Instead I'm going to use a cordless palm router. That way it's just easier to control, and I don't have to take the other one out of the table because I'm going to need that again shortly for the staves. So what I'm cutting it with is because this is a smaller router, it's a 1/4 inch shaft, and you want to get this as deep as you can. This one is pretty much exactly 30 to 32 mil, somewhere around there. If you've got one that's too short, just make sure that the diameter of this is bigger than the diameter of your shaft, and then you can still plunge past it a bit further. Now I'm going to take the base and I'm going to attach that to a piece of wood which will then pivot from the center to give us our circle. This is one that I've used for a few other things. It's got an area here I have already drilled and marked out, so I will attach this onto here. Now when you're routing like this, don't try and do the full depth in one cut. Just do a few millimeters at a time and maybe do it in like 4 or 5 cuts. Don't forget all your protective gear, glasses, earmuffs, mask. So let's get to it. The piece of wood that I used on the bottom there for the template was 4.75mm, which is basically the same size as the base that was on the router. I've just stiffened it up with a piece of pine there. Go. Just remember, if you drilled a hole in the center like I have here, it goes all the way through, you need to plug that first. What I'm going to do here is drill a bigger hole that only goes halfway through with a Forstner bit and then put a plug in it. I'll use a plug of more of the stuff I'm using for the staves because it will swell up better than the Vitex and jam itself in there. No glue, just tap her on in. Perfect. The time has come to make the staves. I'm making them out of 115mm by 32mm thick Amora timber. You can use all sorts of timbers, of course. I am just showing you what I'm using, and I'm not using red cedar just to not use red cedar. So these boards are around 2700 long. I will be cutting them roughly in half to give me the lengths I need. I need 1250mm long boards. So I have my stack here and a few shorter boards here, which should add up to just over 50 boards. I need around 50. So I'll cut these in half now just to make them easier to handle when I'm putting through the router, as it can be a bit unwieldy with these heavy boards pushing them over the router table. I will do the final cutting to size once I have routed both edges. That way I can cut off any snipe or any dings and imperfections I get when I am routing, and things such as the snipe on the ends of these boards that are already there. These are the 3 router bits we'll be using on our staves. This one makes the convex cuts on the edge. This one makes the concave cuts on the opposite edge. And this one you will see later making this groove. These all have a 1/2 inch shaft. So these are all 32mm in size. This is a diameter of 32mm, this is a diameter of 32mm, and this is also 32mm. Links to all of these will be down in the description if you wish to purchase them to make your own hot tub. When I purchased them, I purchased 2 of each one so that if I needed a backup I had it, and I'm glad I did, because as you can see on this one, I took a bit of a chunk out of it there when a bit of metal came in contact with the blade. The other one of that one is still on the router table. setting up now to do the concave groove on the staves. I've put a new board along the back here to eliminate the cutout bit for the router because it doesn't need it. That way it'll help get a smoother cut, no snipe on the ends hopefully. Made sure I got it nice and square because the boards are going to be running in this orientation rather than this orientation. When you do it this way, you just got to be careful. It's got to be hard up against that board. If it pops out like this, you're going to ruin your board. Unlike when you've got it this way, you can go in and out, it doesn't really matter as long as you don't go up or down. Whereas this way it's the opposite, you can go up and down but you can't go out. So to make sure it doesn't pop out, I'm going to have a feather board on it. It will help hold the board against the fence. So the staves are almost ready. They are concave on one side, convex on the other, and just now need to cut them to length to get rid of all these scabby bits off the end. And then we've got one more routing job to do on them. I will be trying to cut them at 1250. Some of them might be a little bit too ratty for that. I might have to go a little bit shorter, maybe down to 1220, something like that. The height doesn't matter too much. You could go as low as say 1100, depending on the lengths of your timber. But the higher they are, the more water you're going to need to heat, the higher the costs of heating your pool. But you'll get more immersion in the water. Anyway, let's cut these things. If you are cutting your boards on a miter saw, check it as cutting square first on a scrap bit of wood. If you're using a circular saw, make sure you use a rafter square or something to cut as straight as possible. It'll make your life a lot easier at the end. Once I've squared off one end of my board, I can push them to the stopper I've screwed to my workbench here. And I'll support in the middle there, and that way it's always 1250. I don't have to measure any of them. You can just square them off, slide them along, cut them. Also, once I've cut each board, I'm putting a cross on the inside bottom of each board so that I know where to route my groove for the base. Because if you get any of that wrong and you accidentally have it up the wrong way when you do it, the whole board's then useless. Next up, we need to put a groove across our boards close to the base. They'll be about 100 millimeters up so that they cover all the base and the supports for the base. And it will be a groove like so. The groove will be the width of base, so they slot on like that. You don't want it super tight fitting because everything's going to swell, and if it's too tight when it swells up you might end up cracking something. A gentle snug fit. So to make those and get them dead square to the bottom, I'm going to make a little jig here. Every router table is different, of course. If you've made your own router table, you need to make your own jigs to your specifications. My specifications are going to be completely different to everybody else's. If you've got a store-bought router table, you will have a slide with a mitre square on it. You can use that for this same process, but I want to be more accurate. I don't want anything to move, so I'm going to make a jig that basically locks the bits of wood in place so I can know that I'm getting everything in the right place every time and nothing's going to move. So I'm going to take two pieces of pine, 19mm thick, 3/4 of an inch, as runners either side of my table. I will attach a piece of MDF on the top like so. Now I just need to put my supports along to hold my board in the position I want it at, and a stop block about here. And once I've got my square set up like this, I'm now going to cut a groove, just a groove, start a groove into this MDF. That way I will measure back the depth I want from here to the edge of my groove, which is going to be 80mm because my baseboards below the base are 85mm, so I'm going to cut the groove with the lowest point at 80. That way I'll have a bit of space, makes it easier to hammer the things on, and it stops the timber from any pressure pushing down onto the deck or any moisture soaking up through the bottom. When you're making a jig, brad nailers are super handy. This is the cutter I'll be using. This is a bottom clearing bit. Link down in the description for all the router bits. Just going to put a board on the top of here as well to stop these boards from wanting to do that, because they're going to be sticking out that way a long way. I'll clamp a stop block on the end where I put my mark there, and then it's nice and easy. Don't have to worry about going too far, or not far enough. Now I want my groove to be 15 millimeters deep. That's because this timber is 32 millimeters, so half of that, 16, I'm going to go just a little bit less than half, so we've got 17 mil of timber left after the groove's been cut out. And then when I put these onto the base, I'll put them on about 10 mil, leaving 5 mil behind each board. That way, when they swell and movement with doing up the bands and that sort of thing, we've got a little bit of room to play with. I've got my jig all set up here. This clamp here is just to stop it from tilting up with any pressure, because the boards are going to be hanging way out here. So that's what that's for. And the problem with routing all these different types of cuts, every one provides a different opportunity to try and work out how to collect dust. So for this one, as you can see, everything comes fired straight out the end here, and so the easiest way I've found is just to put a bucket there like that and just catch, that catches 90% of it. The time has now come to make the part that's going to hold everything together. That's the 3 stainless steel bands we're going to have wrapped around this thing. So the way I'm doing this, I have made a jig here to make my life easier. The bands are made out of stainless steel that is 50 millimeters wide, or 2 inches, and 2 millimeters thick. I am going to join them with a gap, like so. I'm doing that because I'm not the best welder in the world by any means, and also because I want it to be a smooth surface. I could overlap them like that, then I would have a bit of a ridge that's always visible. This way I'm hoping to have it so that I can fill that groove with weld and then grind it smooth. Polish it up and it'll look like one solid piece. So to hold those together, underneath I have a piece cut like so. So I'll leave that gap, there'll be a weld down there, and then when I flip it over it will be welded all the way around like so. So there's heaps of weld holding it together, because we do not want these to break, because if these break you're going to end up in the middle of your garden somewhere. In the middle of my welding jig here I have this large block of steel to absorb heat. So this shot here was meant to be me guillotining the straps for the pool, but I forgot to film it. I was in a hurry, so anyway they're cut and there they are sitting in the back of the van. Half sheet left over, 2 mil stainless. 2 strips of this come in at 4.88 meters, and I need a total overall diameter of 5.2 meters minus an area for adjustment. As well as welding the straps, we're going to have to do some bending. For the bending I am just going to use these, which go on top of your engineer's vise. They've got strong magnets on them, they just clip on, and then as you do up your vise you will get a 90-degree bend in your piece of stainless. We need to do that for the end pieces where the bolts will go through to tension the bands. So when it comes to cutting the stainless, what most people will have to cut it with, angle grinder. Perfectly fine option. Or if you've got one, a metal cutting circular saw, even better. Or I have modified this battery miter saw slightly, raised the bed up, screwed these boards on, taken a old blade off one of these, and I'm going to cut it that way. This one's a bit scratched and a bit out of square, so I'm going to use it as a test one just to make sure everything's all good. So I will drill a hole 16mm in 3 of them, and in the other 3 I will do 20mm holes. The 16mm will be possibly welded, that end, once I've threaded the rod through and put the dome nut on, and the 20mm one will be the one with the adjustment. So to drill the holes you are going to need something fairly hefty. Tungsten carbide hole saw bits are the way to go. So we want to mark 20mm in from one end and 25 in from one side. If you've got a drill press, use it, otherwise a hand drill with this size hole saw through stainless should be fairly easy. So I've just rounded off those corners so nobody catches themselves on it in the future. Next you want to mark a line 40mm up from the end with a hole in it. What I suggest is you pack the bottom up here to get to the right height so that you don't have to try and line this up. You can just go thunk and then do it up. Now make sure the side you polished is on the inside. We want that to be visible. The other side will be against the tub there. Now this is going to be quite difficult because 2mm of stainless is quite hard, so you'll need to put a bit of elbow grease into it. You might need to put an extension on the handle of your vise just to make life a little bit easier. Once it starts to go like it is now, it gets a little bit easier. And there we have it. Slightly past 90 degrees there, but pretty good. The main reason I've built this jig here is to make sure I get everything dead straight. So this jig is 900mm long, and it's so that I hold these two pieces together in a dead straight line, because if it's slightly out of whack it won't wrap around my tub properly and connect at the ends. Before you go welding anything, make sure you just clean up all the rough edges on all the areas to be welded. Give it a clean, make sure there's no oil or grease or anything like that on the metal. If your welding isn't up to scratch, or you're just too scared to do it, or you don't have a welder, then remember you can always get a friend to do it, or take it to a sheet metal engineering workshop and they'll do these sort of things for you, no problem, shouldn't cost you too much. I'm ready to weld this section now. I have it placed in my jig here. I've left a gap. I'm going to fill that gap with weld and then grind it smooth. Then I'll finish polishing it all off once I've ground that smooth. Before I do that, I will flip it over and weld that pattern on the back side for the extra strength. Now I'm not going to give you too many tips on welding because, well, I suck at welding. Luckily the back doesn't have to look pretty. This is a brushed number 2 finish. That's what this is called. That's the way it came. It buffs up to this very easily. Now I'm not going for a mirror finish. I'm just going for this semi-shiny sort of finish here. I don't want it to be mirror because then fingerprints and everything will show up on it. You can of course buy sheets that are already in this condition or mirror finish. Up to you. They're getting better slowly. Welded and ground, they now need polishing, so I'll peel off all this tape and give them a good polish. Give the straps a wipe down with some turps to remove any oil or sticky stuff left over from the backing tape. That way your polish will come up a lot better. To polish you will need some polishing compound and a polishing wheel attached to a polisher. I have put an attachment so that I can wind on polishing wheels. So I've got this old polishing wheel on there. We will polish it with that. This is variable speed so I can get it just right. Don't want angle grinder speeds which are a bit too quick. Without further ado, let's get to it. And repeat. For my bolts I am using some 16mm stainless threaded rod, I think it's 316, and I have some dome nuts. So I'm going to have a dome nut on one end, I have some washers that I've cut down a bit and I'm going to weld them on also. So these will be welded tight on one end, that way when I thread it through the other end and I'll put a washer and a coupling nut on the other side, and I will only have to turn this. I shouldn't have to hold this in because this will lock in place. It won't be able to turn because of this big square washer, and I will just tighten her up. I'm going to put some lube on each of these coupling nuts because stainless steel has a tendency to bind to stainless steel, so your nuts can seize up, and you don't want to seize your nuts up because you might not be able to fully adjust your bolts and your straps, and that'll be no damn good. If I can find these online for you to buy, I will put links down in the description below. Now just give that a wipe down with some turp, take off the excess compound, and we'll be ready to go. Let's put this thing together. So there is the base in position. Make sure you have, if you are doing it as I am and putting the base straight onto your deck joist, your substructure, make sure the beams underneath your sparple are running at a 90-degree angle to the substructure. Now I'm going to cheat somewhat by adding this PVC closed cell foam strip. This is 4.8mm thick. The strip will serve two purposes. A, it will hopefully prevent leakage in the first couple of weeks while things are swelling up. I've got faith this will swell up enough and stop leaking, but at first it's going to leak a lot, and so this is just to help mitigate that a little bit. The other reason for doing it is a stop for putting the staves on. You can mark a ring all the way around your base and tap your staves up to that. You've got to allow a bit of a gap for clamping tight your straps, but if you have the foam you can clamp up against the foam. So that 4.8mm foam will be my clamping space basically, so I won't have to tap up to a certain line. I can just put the staves up against the foam and go from there. Let's get these staves on. Now remember, don't hit them all the way on because you're going to pull them in a bit with your straps. Make sure you've got a spare block of wood the same profile as your staves so you can tap them into place if necessary. Use the rubber mallet to hammer them on the outside, and well, let's get to it. Try and put some of your nicer boards at the front or whichever side's going to be the most visible. That way it'll just look a bit better, won't it? Save any rough boards you might have around the back or where the pump's going, that sort of thing, where it might be covered up by a pump box. Ooh, the boards are in place. Have I gotten lucky? Am I going to have to cut one or not? Let's get the strops on. With the staves all in place, you can probably see I have a small issue. Now, it's not that it's on that angle. The top is being pulled in with strops, so it is parallel. It's just pulled in more at the top, just hold everything in place at the moment. Now, if I hadn't put that rubber stuff on, I probably wouldn't have had that problem. I definitely wouldn't have. And the other annoying thing is, when this all swells up, it's going to swell up at least that much. But for the time being, I'm going to have to do something about it. So to fill that gap, I don't want to put in a thin little strip. I will cut two boards down and make them fit that gap. I have put my two extra boards in, And I'll put some straps on to hold everything in place. If you're like me and you're doing this by yourself, you've got nobody to help, it can be quite tricky getting these ratchet straps around in the right place. So I just, as you can see on the top here, put some clamps on and then just threaded it through the clamps, nice and easy. So it's looking pretty swish. Ah, damn it. Before I go any further, I'm going to apply a coat of oil to the outside of the tub. Putting the oil on now will help stop the sun from damaging the timber so much, cracking it, warping it, that sort of thing, because it's going to be in full sunlight until it's full of water and everything. I want it protected. This will need 2 coats, one in another week's time. This is a New Zealand product, but there'll be something similar where you come from that you could use. Just going to apply it with a brush and a helicopter. With this type of oil, you need to basically put a coat on, wait a week, put another coat on. That's it. And then once a year, probably every summer, I'll give it a maintenance coat just to keep it looking good. My cantilever idea is looking like it's going to work good. I'll put some rocks under there and it'll kind of look like the tub's just sitting on rocks. You do need to be patient when you are filling up hot tubs. They will leak for a while. Don't panic if you see water coming out of the bottom straight away. That's what it will do. It's going to take several weeks potentially for it to swell up enough that it'll stop leaking. Band 1 is in position. I have put the band pretty much bang over where the staves join onto the base. My wife won't let me take off the blue strops yet. I don't know why. So the bands are on and it's looking pretty good. Unfortunately, there's a couple of strap marks from those blue strops, but it needs another coat of oil anyway, so I will oil that up. And she's pretty much done as a tub. As it's filling up, some of the staves are leaking, but they will hopefully swell shortly and those leaks will subside. We got leakage. But like I say, it'll come right, it'll swell up. Might waste a bit of water, but it'll get there in the end. I have stopped filling for the time being. I filled it up to 6 inches, 150 mil. And I'm just letting that now drain out through the gaps and what have you. And I don't want to fill it right up because I haven't put any holes over here yet for the plumbing. So I was just testing that it's worth carrying on. And it is, so I'll now let this slowly drain its way out. And then I'll put my bottom suction pipe in and a valve on the other side of that so I can turn it off, and then I'll carry on filling up the tub. Although of course before I completely fill it again, I have to make sure I do some seating. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build seats similar to this. The boards for my seat are 375mm long. I have come in from one end 35mm each side, drawn a line back to the other end to the corner, and that angle there will make sure that my seat all goes around in a nice circle. Now there's lots of different ways you can cut these to get them right. If you don't have a table saw, you could just use a circular saw. That's what I'm going to do here. So nice and easy with a circular saw. Just going to be very repetitive having to clamp them and spin them around. If you're doing 40 boards, it's a lot to do. So after I've done this one, I'll show you how to do it on a table saw, or how I'm going to do it on a table saw. One method. There's lots of methods you could use. Using the board I just cut with a circular saw, I'm going to use this edge to create a jig. What you're going to need for that is an old piece of ply, just a scrap piece, or a piece of MDF like this. This is a little bit thin, 1/2-inch ply would be perfect. This is 5mm MDF. You'll need something for a runner in your track to attach this to. and you'll need a few scrap bits of wood like this. Basically you're going to set this up, cut edge against the blade. You can then set these up. You make sure you've got a nice tight corner here because you're going to need that when you flip the board to cut the other side, and a fairly loose one on the top just to hold it in place. So make a setup like that, and then we're ready to cut the boards. Or of course, if you've already got a taper jig on your table saw, you can just use that. I've added a bit of scrap wood here as a makeshift handle. I have screwed a stop to my workbench at the end of my miter saw, and I've set it up so that I can cut 375mm blanks. That will be perfect for my seat and fit in my jig. For cutting the other side, I have attached this piece of timber. It's one of the offcuts from the first cut, and that way I won't ever get anything out of whack. Should all be nicely lined up. There's all my boards laid out in a circle. They all come together nicely. It works. They will, when I've got them in the pool, have a slight gap between them, so it allows for any swelling. And I've also got about another half a dozen extras. Now you could route these by hand with a palm router, as I'm about to do here, or you can do it on the table, which I will show you in a minute. Remember, when you're routing something like this, if you're going around the outside, you go anti-clockwise. If you're going around the inside of something, you go clockwise. Make sure you start with a fully charged battery. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to do, round them over. On the fronts here, I'm going to round the top and the bottom. Check down in the description for links if you haven't got one of these. So there they are, they look pretty nice, I reckon. 39 of them there. Hopefully that will be enough. That should be about enough. So the seats are cut. The boards that the seats will attach to are cut. They're 32 by 32. I just need some legs now to put them on. The legs I am making out of the 65 by 45 Vitex. I am cutting these at 400 long. With the thickness of my top of the seat, it will bring the total height to 422. I'm also doing one area that will be 700, which will bring it up to 722, and that is for the step when you get in and for when you get too hot and you just want to get out of the water a bit. I'm going to cut a 45mm channel on the table saw with the table sled that we used in making the groove in the bottom of the staves, so hope you didn't throw that away. The way this will go together is seat slat held with this 32 by 32 and then sitting on top of my legs with the cross member, and this will sit on top of that, the slats, like so. So overall we're looking at 375 long for the slats. I'm thinking we come in a bit so that we're 330 in total length, so the legs aren't right at the front of the seat. That means 330 minus 2 of this thickness, which is 35, so that's 70. So that's 260, am I right? And we'll bring it in from the back, say another 10 mil. So we'll say 250 mil. So I will cut a whole lot of braces or cross members at 250, and then we'll screw these things together. With those cut, it now comes time to put everything together. I'm going to put it together with these stainless steel 12 gauge 65mm long decking screws. So I will be drilling through the two bits of timber first because I don't want them to split. This is hardwood. It splits very easily if you don't put a pilot hole in your timber first. I'm going to use this 4.5mm bit with a countersink already on it. Saves a process, and we'll do that on the drill press. Now that I've made all the frames, I'm attaching the brackets first that I made earlier. Putting them on first will make it a lot easier when I'm in the tub. My first two legs are screwed in position. I've cut two 32x32mm boards from the top there, and I am going to sit my slats on top of that, and then I am going to brad nail them from underneath just to hold them in position, and then I'll flip it over and screw them with stainless screws. It was a bit cramped to film that in the tub with me in the way and everything, so what I did was I laid these on top of those two slats that you saw, and I nailed from underneath just to hold them in place enough that I could pull this whole thing out, flip it over, and then screw it. And I'm going to screw it with 45mm stainless countersunk screws, and I am going to drill pilot holes first. Make sure you set your drill bit so you don't drill straight through the top of your slats. I'm real happy the way that's turned out. This is the seat for which you step onto when you get in, and you can sit on to cool down. So now I just need to repeat it 5 or 6 more times for the lower section, which is where that brace is in the middle there. Both suction ports in and half the seats in. Looking good. I'm now just going to put some lower seats on this side, and I'm going to leave a gap over this side so I can stand up on it and lean against the side if I wish. Well, that looks pretty good, even if I do say so myself. I've rounded off the corners of the seats there on this high seat just so we don't hit our legs on them. So that's the seats done. Hope that was of some help if you are building a hot tub. Still got to do the pump. In this video I'm going to run through the plumbing and the heater and the pump, that sort of thing. Everywhere's different in the world, so I'm just going to quickly show you what I did. These are the two return jets. This is the valve at the bottom of the bottom return and the pipe going up to the top return. Those two boards there are stands for the heater and the pump. Just lubing up the O-rings so that they come apart easier and they last a bit longer. The heater is a 3 kilowatt heater and the pump is a 1/4 horsepower. This is the pipe between the heater and the pump. In this setup the heater comes before the pump, but a lot of the times the heater goes after the pump. Make sure you get the configuration right between your heater and your pump. From the pump the water goes to the filter, which is a 50 square foot filter. From there it goes through another valve which can go to waste or up to the jets. There's 3 jets on the pool and a waterfall, which you'll see shortly. So the jets piping there is all rigid piping. I couldn't get any flexible pipe. That's the pipe that goes to waste down the bottom there. There's the jet pipes almost complete. That pipe on the right near the filter is the one that will go to the waterfall. Always make sure you mark your pipes when you're doing complicated glue ups so that you get everything in the right angle. And there we are, she's all done there, ready to go. Just need some water. Oh, the waste pipe's not put in yet. When it comes to gluing your pipes together for pool plumbing, first get your two parts, make sure they're nice and clean. I cut my pipe on a drop saw with a nice fine tooth blade. That gets a real good finish, no need to remove any burrs or anything, it's nice and smooth. I leave the ends square because on the pool parts, often a square flat surface for it to pop into. Dry fit them first, then get your primer. Wipe the inside of your socket here and the outside of your pipe to be attached. You can use this as a sort of cleaning fluid. These pipes are pretty clean, so I'm not worried about that. This sort of etches into the pipe, starts melting the plastic a little bit. Next, make sure you get a high pressure glue. Some people say you don't need it, but you might as well use the high pressure one. And you smear that on the inside of your socket first, then the outside of your pipe. So inside of socket, and then your light fails on you. Outside, smear it on. And then stick them together as quickly as you can. Put a bit of pressure on. Get it right in there. When gluing a pipe into one of these pool valves, I like to pull the valve apart and then block off the valve outlet that I am about to glue with some duct tape. So I've got some duct tape in there that I've put in from the inside. That way that will prevent the valve from getting glued stuck and prevent little blobs of glue from preventing the valve to be able to turn all the way around. There is the arrangement of my jets. They're all very close together because the pump box is only pretty small and I don't want to have pipes going around the outside of the tub looking horrible. My wife and I are not into the jets all that much, so we just need them for circulation and getting the water back in and the heat and everything. So hopefully this will do the trick. And if you want jets, that's where you'll sit. I'm also going to have a waterfall type feature somewhere in the middle of the screen now. And I've still got to make the cover for that top suction port there. The time has come to turn on the pump for the first time. I am leaving the jets exposed at the moment, turning off that top suction pipe, just having the water come in the bottom suction pipe and blow back out the jets. Just want to see how powerful they are. But first I will make sure all my valves are in the right direction. So I need to block off this top suction pipe. That valve there is correct. Water coming through the filter and up the pipe to go back through the jets, and the short little one for my waterfall is turned off. So everything is set. Just need to turn that one. Unfortunately it's just been raining and so there's a bit of water about the place. It's going to be hard to see where leaks are. But we'll just let some water flow through, see if there's any obvious leaks, and then turn her on. And 3, 2, 1, let's turn this puppy on. Woohoo! Yeah, little birdie. Yay! Exactly what I wanted. So they work, we can fill her up now. Right, oh, we got a bit of a leak there. Got a surprising little drip on that one. Yeah, a fair bit on that one. Tighten those up. Everything else looks pretty good. As you fill your tub, you will get leaks like this. This water is running down from the highest point at the moment, running down, hitting that band and shooting off. It looks much worse than it is, don't panic. You need to fill the tub about 100 to 150 mil, 4 to 6 inches each day, and let it soak up the timber. So I'm now up to 900 millimeters deep. At 700, no problem at all. Once I got past 800, started to leak because it soaks about 4 inches above where you've filled the water level to, 4 to 6 inches. So don't panic, it will come right. By the time it takes it to go down about 50 mil inside the tub, it will have stopped leaking, and then the next day top it up another 150. Just do it like that. Might take a couple of weeks to stop all the leaks, but don't panic, they will stop. Disclaimer, if they don't stop, not my fault. I've marked out my lines as I did with my test. I've got 20 mil here. This is the flange that will have a couple of holes in it to attach it to the tub, and all these are 35 mil. It's 90 millimeters wide and 102 this way vertically. That is just so I can clear the blades here down the sides so that it ends up looking like this. Before I do that, however, I'm going to drill all the holes in it. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that just yet. I'm going to make that up sort of as I go along, and I'm not sure how to make an anti-vortex, but hopefully it works. And this big offcut here we will use for the skimmer cover over the top suction port. Make sure you've got a bit of spare time when you start doing this. It takes a while. These small holes are 5 mil. These ones I've done around the sides are 8 mil. I haven't done any at the top. So there you have it. That looks pretty good, I reckon. I'm happy with that. But industrial, much better than the crappy plastic ones. This will last forever. Just need to peel all this stuff out of the inside here. Now I could weld along these fold joints here, but I think I'll leave it open, that way a bit more water can get sucked in, plus I suck at welding. And no one's ever going to see this once it's in position anyway, because it's going to be underneath the seats at the bottom of the pool. So I'll just peel off that stuff, give it a bit of a polish, and we'll be done. We can start filling up the tub. That was a fun shaped bit to cut out, and I managed to do it with just one piece of wood. Got some awkward shaped boards to cut for this boardwalk, got quite a few of them to cut unfortunately. But today I am making the lid for this bar. It's going to be made out of this Amora, it's looking good. I have finished putting boards on the end of the pump box here. It's looking swish. Haven't done this side yet. Done the lid here, so it hinges up. I'm now going to quickly oil all this because it looks like it's going to rain soon, and then I'm going to start on the electrics, and then I will finish covering in the side once I've accessed all I need to for the electrics. And then we've got this side here to do, face the front of this retaining wall, put some lights in, and finish the deck. I don't think I've had a project where I've had to make more jigs and test patterns and that sort of thing than this one. And look at the annoying angle I've got to do there. So, time for another pattern. Just make that out of an old bit of pine first. That way I don't stuff up a $60 piece of Vitex. Is it worth it? Oh yeah, it's been worth it. Another hour or so's work and I think I'll have a soak. It's a hard life in lockdown. So first you take a 2 meter long, 180mm wide by 32mm thick piece of Vitex at $30 a meter, and then you cut half of it off. All that waste. That's the waste. All fitting together nicely. One awkward shaped gap left to fill. We're nearly done. I've still got a bit of lighting to work out, but as you can see, the deck, the boardwalk is complete all the way to the aviary, so that's good, makes life much easier. Oh, son of a bitch! Now what does it look like with some lights going? I still haven't gotten around to finishing this bit off in the front, but I want to get this video over and done with. So this will eventually be a rock garden, some plants in there, nothing too high that blocks the tub. If you were building one of these, I hope you find it as satisfying as I did. And if you're using my instructions, please let me know how you got on. So thanks for watching, guys. It was a great little journey making this thing, and it was super handy during lockdown, just soaking away while the world shut down. And maybe I'll go have a soak now. So thanks for watching, and if you need any help with building a hot tub, have a look down in the description up in the corner. Lots of videos on this tub, and I'll see you later.